Hey everyone, it's Dan from FiftyOne, and I'm back with another set of tips and tricks, this time looking at the CLI and how it can speed up your workflows. Check out the blog for more information, but for here, we'll dive right into this notebook and see how you can use the CLI to make your work faster and cleaner using FiftyOne. To get started, I'll highlight the tab completion. Tab completion is a great tool in any CLI interface. That way you don't have to remember every single command. You're able to complete some. You can look at your options. So we can run this and get it out of the way. Now, I'll get it out of the way first as well, that I am running this in a Jupyter notebook. There are going to be some Python components here that will help visualize what these command lines are doing, but it's totally unnecessary. Everything here could be run in Bash or other different kinds of command prompts, but I will be using the Jupyter notebook for some Python and Bash back and forth. So for tab completion, like I said, it will show you all the different complete commands and things like that. Super useful. Highly love it. Recommend it if you're going to use it. To load the quickstart demo, this is something that probably every FiftyOne user has probably seen at least once, where quickstart is the basic data set. We're just going to make sure that we have that loaded up if you haven't already, as we'll be using that to play around with some of our CLI, right? So we can launch the app. Not that we need to be doing any of this, but this is what it looks like, right? Some typical detection visual data set. Moving on, let's get into our first set of CLI commands. And the first one we're going to do is list our data sets. So we can actually run this and see all the data sets that I have on my machine. We see I have a couple there, and some malaria cell images, the open images, quick start, and some tip and tricks ones, right? So that's great. We're able to very cleanly say which ones are on my machine, which ones have you forgotten about any, was that on my other machine? You're able to very quickly figure out where they are. You're also able to sort them by the day they were created at. Maybe there's some are old, and this tips and tricks one is probably ready to go. You can see it's giving me all some question marks, as well as this evaluate detection tutorial seems to be from June, so that can probably go as well. So now we can actually delete a data set. So, I'll go out of my way and I'll delete this evaluate detections data set. So I know this data set, I used it for just an example. That's okay. So I can nix it. And just like that, it's deleted. If I go back to my list here, see it's gone. So that's great. For here, we can also delete all our non-persistent data sets in the command line, right? So maybe you've loaded a lot of views in, maybe you've loaded a bunch of different data sets just to quickly look at some or test them out, but you're not interested in keeping them on your computer forever. Running this command, you can just like that, delete all of them right away and save that memory. One of the ones that I find, insanely helpful, right, is the stats and info CLI. So if you know the name of your data set, you can quickly just grab the stats of your data set, right? How many samples are in them, how much size is it on disk, like that's huge. To know if anything's getting bloated, to know if it's the right one that you're looking at, to make sure that it's still the same amount of samples, that you haven't accidentally removed or added any samples, is super helpful. And even on top of that, this info, FiftyOne datasets info CLI command, if you know the name of your data set, you're able to see the different fields in your data set. You're able to see, if you've added your predictions already. Have you computed a uniqueness score? If you've done any brain runs. Have you added any other additional fields potentially? These are super useful. I can't tell you how many times it's checking whether or not I've added predictions, if I've run evaluations before. All these things you can do with the 4 words on the command line and get it right away. Another super easy one that I find easier with the command line is drawing on labels to your samples. This means drawing on your boxes or your segmentations or whatever it is. You get to pick which one you're interested in. I like to do detections or predictions because it shows how well my model is doing. It's easy for me to go around and show it maybe to a boss or a marketing member and show them what we're looking at. And it's super easy to do from the command line as well, right? This is now still leveraging that FiftyOne datasets root, but then now draw on labels, predictions, quick start, right? So we get to pick where the directory is. We get to pick what field we can do predictions. We can do ground truth. and then as well as dataset. And this will draw on straight to the dataset. I'm not going to run this as it does take some time sometimes, so I'm not going to get into that. But like I said, highly recommend it. Super easy just to push all those detections to a dataset or a directory and be able to send them off somewhere else where they need to go. You're also able to easily rename datasets. So we have our quickstart data types. I've renamed it to tips and tricks. I already did this once, so I'll do it again. I'll rename it to tips and tricks 2. And we can see it could be renamed right away. And we can go back up. Let's look at when they were created by. You can see that quickstart is gone, and now we have tips and tricks 2 instead. Right? It's just like that. Super easy. The next part of the CLI we want to explore is the plugin CLI. Now, we are super excited for plugins. They are coming, and we are so proud of the work that's been going into them. We're really excited about how it's going to extend the functionality of the FiftyOne app within your own environments. It's fully customizable, open source. If you haven't checked out the FiftyOne plugins repo already, jump over there. It's super cool. Still lives in the same voxel 51 GitHub repository. But with Fit plugins, we're able to add new operators to our app. So first, we can check which plugins we have. So if I run this list, you can see I've only downloaded the Hello World so far. And we can list all the operators that come along with that. And we can see we have our Hello World count, as well as some other ones that are standard. We go back down. If you need to download Hello World, you do FiftyOne's plugins download, right? So just to recap a bit, right? We have our plugins list, operators list. This will show us what's currently existing within our setup. If I need to download a plugin, it's simple as plugins download the path of the GitHub repository that it's in, and then specifically the plugin name that you're looking for from that repository if there's more than one. You are able to download just the entire GitHub repository if there's more than one plugin you're looking to get. But if you want just one, this is how you do it. So now we can go to our list. We know that we have our Hello World in there. We have our Hello World count in there. You're also able to disable and enable plugins on the fly. While this is a little silly with the Hello World example being very lightweight, there are certain plugins you might not want to have that will overlap with others. You know, for instance, what if we have 2 pre-processing plugins or 2 different educational plugins, right, that we don't want to step on each other's toes? Or maybe you're just loading in a lot of stuff at once and you don't want to be doing that. You have a resource-constrained machine. But now that we've loaded our Hello World plugin into our app, we can jump in, click, you hit the back tick, that's the one on the top left of the keyboard. You can pull up this operator list. I can look up my Hello World, and we'll get our ones. We can also look by their name, count. And now, very easy example, count the numbers of samples. If you haven't looked at plugins yet, we have some that are super exciting. Voxel GPT is now a plugin. The FiftyOne Brain is a plugin. We have some input-output plugins. We have some pre-processing data cleaning plugins. Jacobs has even made an AI art gallery plugin using Stable Diffusion and DALL-E 2 to generate new samples based on prompts. And we have a lot more exciting ones coming. We're super excited. Can't wait for you guys to dive in to see them and have community members contribute their own plugins as well. So this has been the CLI tips. If you guys have any questions about CLI, I highly encourage you guys to jump on the Slack. Also, while you're at it, give us a star on GitHub. We appreciate every single one. There's always conversation going on at the FiftyOne Slack. If you guys have any questions about the CLI or any other parts of FiftyOne, hop in. I'm always in there. There's tons of great community members in there that are helping out as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this session. Until next time.